Welcome to the first ever Real Estate Summer Series podcast brought to you by Gramercy Real Estate Group. My name is Blanca and I have the pleasure of sitting here with Roberto Cacho. Roberto is the president at Cacho Group and he's also a partner at Iconic Caribbean. Roberto, we have a lot of members in our group who want to learn more about the construction in Puerto Rico. They have some questions, they want to know about permitting process. And so I want to ask you, in today's market, would you invest in raw land or an existing master plan community?
Well, as you were a developer and you wanted to buy a large tract of land, I would recommend to anyone to invest in an existing community and avoid all the hassle involved with construction.
Okay. As a developer, where do you see more interest and where do you see more potential for growth? Is it more so the metro area like Condado, San Juan, or is it the non-metro regions like, let's say, the suburbs or perhaps the West Coast, which has been very popular lately?
I see opportunities everywhere. However, I have to say that the interest that the West Coast is eliciting right now is something spectacular. Very much like the interest that there was in the East Coast 20 years ago. I also see great opportunity in some of the outlying areas of San Juan, like the suburbs, Santa Maria. I see lots of new residents of Puerto Rico looking at those options.
Okay.
They're near schools, they're near hospitals, and I think people are learning to get around the city.
And do you see more people trying to buy lots to build ground up new construction or just trying to get an existing structure and remodel it?
I think you see both. You know, the truth is that in existing communities there are very few empty lots. And I don't see people knocking down houses to build new houses like in the States. I do see people remodeling existing houses to accommodate their needs.
Good. Okay, and what are the differences in the permitting process between a large and small residential development? And are there different requirements when building a hotel development?
Well, there are huge differences. In large developments, you need all kinds of permits that you wouldn't need in a small development. I mean, like if you bought a house. If you bought a house in a zone area, and you go to the permitting agency and you submit the changes, and that's a pretty straightforward process. Now, if you buy a 100-acre piece of land to build a hotel, you have to go through environmental, you have to go through all kinds of requirements, state and federal, because it's not only state. The only good thing about it, we do have a very pro-business administration right now. And I have to say that hasn't always been the case. And Puerto Rico seems to be intent on capitalizing in its current boom. And that's a great thing. But somebody who's looking for a one-time opportunity, I would buy a zoned property and go with that rather than go through the hassle of permitting from the ground up.
Okay, and talking about, as you well mentioned, the boom in real estate right now, I mean, what do you think are some of the challenges in construction right now, and how has that affected the cost of construction in a price per square foot basis?
Well, you have three elements that I think are very difficult right now, which is the lack of labor is one, the huge increase in the cost of materials, and that is not just a Puerto Rican problem, that's a worldwide problem. I mean, everybody's gone out building, and there's a huge boom in the US as well. And I think the third problem is the lack of banking opportunities in Puerto Rico. We have a market where there are tremendous opportunities for new lenders to come and play a role that the banks are not quite filling in.
You mean the local, larger banks, the typical traditional banks?
We only have 3 banks, so the 3 banks do what they can, but they have other niches that are very profitable, probably more profitable than construction, so they focus on those.
I see. Okay. And what are some of these environmental issues that someone should consider when building oceanfront versus, let's say, the mountain region or flatland?
Well, number one, you have to make sure that you're looking for a property that is zoned. So if you want to build a home, make sure that you have a residential zoning. Near the beach, you have many issues. You have coastal flooding, you have the maritime zone. If you buy an existing property, well, a lot of those problems are resolved because the property is there.
Yeah.
As long as the repairs that you make or the construction that you involve yourself in is not huge, that you should not have an issue. But the hardest to build is on the waterfront, because you have there the federal and state rules that you have to apply. I think building in mountains is fairly simple. As long as you're buying, for example, a farm and you're putting a home or 2 homes, that should not be overly complicated. If you want to build a subdivision, then you have to go through the whole process, whether you're in the coast, whether you're on the countryside, whether you're on the East Coast or on the West Coast. So that's how I see it.
Well, that's really great information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. He is one of the most prominent developers here in Puerto Rico. If you want to do any type of consultation with Roberto, please go to his website, grupocacho.com.
Thank you.